as we discuss where we're at and what we're going to do about it, because we're not going to sit still and let them win. We're going to fight back and raise awareness and raise activity and get more and more people on board with action to fix this. It is the times that we're in. That is simply it, and we must rise to that challenge. So I want to talk today about elephants in the room. You know, I've started to really do a lot of research and exposure, and it's not how everything is fitting together, because it's not just about fraudulent foreclosures. It's huge. That's the huge issue that is also an elephant in the room, because the conversation in the media is completely ignoring the horrific penalty that is had on all the individuals, our economy, our workforce, our jobs, everything, and how destructive it has been. They'll say things like, well, you know, we lost 6 trillion, pick a number, who knows? The fact is, that number translates into real people, you and me, and that's why we're meeting and trying to figure out, okay, how are we going to change the conversation, and what are we going to do about this, and how can we stop this devastation, get some justice, get some restitution as we flow into a new paradigm, because that's coming, and we can work to enhance that paradigm. So I want to talk about several different elephants in the room, because they're all tied together. The ratings agencies are one of the key elephants that has not been discussed in the foreclosure crisis. Without their approval on these mortgage-backed securities, into which all these loans were pointed because they didn't actually ever flow there correctly. That's why all the foreclosures are fraudulent. If they had not blessed these securities, they wouldn't have happened. And so I call the ratings agencies like the traffic cop. Stop. No, you can't go. And so then they got bribed off and said, okay, fine, whatever. And the traffic just ran right off the cliff. So I want to talk about that. I'll show you that. Matt Taibbi wrote a great article. I'll have that link. I want to show you some other elephants that I've discovered in my research, because these are the silence was deafening. The run on the gold bullion and the Bank of America Gestapo dumb. Both of those things are just screaming for, wait a minute, we already heard about this, but nothing's really happened. What's going on? That's why I call them an elephant in the room. These humongous things happen, and there's no talk about it, virtually. And then we do have real tools. I have today for you all 7 of the affidavits for the employees of Bank of America, who all swear what they were forced to do to have a job in the loan modification department. So we'll have all the links. These are real tools that we can now use as weapons as we send out these links to people that could be swayed by this information and evidence. And then I want to show you again some gradually, we'll pick Lauren Stone, because I'm getting more and more evidence of the forged signatures, and so there's some actual proof that people are going to be able to pull into their court documents, into their qualified written requests, into however they are fighting back in foreclosure defense. I call my little techniques like do it yourself. We're a do it yourself foreclosure defense, where you don't have an attorney, but you have some guides. You know, you can watch a little video, you can fill out a qualified written request, you can attach these. You can print these documents and you can attach them to your qualified written request. Why not? Why not send them into the OCC? I suspect the OCC has already gotten them. You know, they don't see no evil, so they don't want to see them, because if they see them, they might have to do something about them. And this is what I call the black hole. And then there's some other petitions going around that I want to bring to your attention. They are very important, because this happens to do with not just stopping the fraud, but protecting our liberties. Because what's happening is the fraud is encroaching, and it's becoming such a big cloud, and they have used all the money that they get for free, the banksters, that they can buy anybody off. And so there go our liberties, boop, right out the door. And we have to stop that, because in the end, don't get me wrong, I think our fighting fraud and keeping our homes is high up on the list. But in the end, you and I want liberty. We want to be able to eat. We want to breathe clean air. And we can find a place to live. Okay, so really we're looking almost at the very basic survival of humanity if we're talking about the freedom to make decisions, the freedom to move, the freedom to, not be in a FEMA camp, to have those freedoms and then have food and air, and then homes, okay? And of course, you guys know that I believe that homes are number one because they have provable fraud. If we could get if we could get a grip, get someone, some entity, ideally Attorney General, ideally the Department of Justice of the United States, but it doesn't look like that's going to happen. And as we go through some of this information, we're going to discover that they say, oh, now we have tools. And I'm going, wait a minute. We've got weapons here. We don't need tools. We're not digging a garden. What we need is, a bazooka. We need to round up these criminals and throw them in prison. So before we get started, real quickly, I just wanted to hit the announcements because Saturday, so today's Thursday, so in 2 days, if you're anywhere close to any of these groups, Santa Barbara, Los Angeles, Petaluma, I know those for sure. They're doing Move Your Money, and Santa Barbara's the parade and pink party, and Kimmy down there is really pushing, getting support to literally make it fun and get more people involved, because always singing a sad song, people don't want to hear that. So but in the end they need to hear that, and they need to get involved, they need to be awakened. And so this is an effort on her part to awaken. Carlos down in LA, Move Your Money, they're going to be meeting at 11 o'clock in the morning at the corner of Hollywood and Highland. So please, if you're there, join. It's an effort to move the money. The whole bottom line is the system is going to blow up, and I'm going to give you a link to the article, and I'm not going to go into a lot of specifics. We've talked a lot about it. I want you to be able to pursue this research on your own so that you can figure out what you're going to do about it. We've got some general, comments that we've made, but number one, get your money out of these mega banks. I mean, just do it. Just get it out. I know that maybe they have a fabulous, online bill pay. We went through that. We went through the pain. We've moved our money out of Wells Fargo. It's gone. It's over. And so you have to learn another online banking payment system. Oh well, it's better to do that than to lose your money. And then Petaluma is going to have another Move Your Money action again. They're consistent every Saturday from noon to 1:30. They're meeting at 125 Western Avenue in Petaluma. So if you have some time, please get on board, do that. All right, back to true elephants. And of course, just before we get into that, breaking news, no real surprise. Remember, we now have reality glasses. These aren't really Google glasses, they're reality glasses. And we understand how reality now is being manipulated and what is happening behind the scenes. We're looking at everything, join me, in looking at everything that happens out of the globalists' eyes. Ron Paul calls them statists. Pick a name. The idea is when you back up and you put on your globalist glasses, then you understand that things like this are, have some real potential to be correct. I'm not going to say how do I know, but the fact of the matter is, no matter how you slice this particular pie, his Mercedes is not going to explode into flames without a little assistance. Yup. And he died early morning in Hollywood when his car allegedly hit a tree at high speed. However, as you look at the damage, it's from the trunk. There you go. And he was on a hot story. and he was going to expose the enemy. He has the FBI and the CIA, and he has enemies. So now is not a safe time for breaking news and exposing insiders and the corruption and the collusion. You know, I saw an article in the paper today, interestingly enough, about the plane that blew up. Well, they said, okay, it was an electrical problem in 1996, and now today they're saying, wait a minute, that was a missile. And I'm reading this now with new eyes and new understanding. And I'm thinking now it probably was a missile. And at the time of the looking into the reviews, people were saying it's a missile, but that was just being dismissed. No, we're not going to look at that. Well, you know, now the people on the board are different, and they're saying, well, I guess we could open the investigation. I think we're going to discover more and more and more about this, and it should be no surprise. And so these are topics that we can, you know, engage others in our community that may not be open to foreclosures or fraud or the globalists. But the fact is, when you start looking back and more news comes out that these things that happen are not as they seem, you know, it raises awareness, and that's a good thing. All right. Humongous elephant in the room on foreclosures, and it was the ratings agencies. And this is the article by Matt Taibbi. I just wanted to read you a paragraph. You could finish the article. He's really pretty thorough. It says, Lord, this is a quote. These are incriminating emails sent amongst the ratings agencies and analysts and executives. So in incriminating email after incriminating email, executives and analysts from these companies are caught admitting their entire business model is crooked. Fraud as a business model, as a lucrative business model. So is it any wonder these people are winning? They're cheating. They're cheating. You and I are trying to live honestly and be full disclosure and, you know, wouldn't be caught doing this to someone else. And they're just doing it ad nauseum. Quote unquote for the email. Lord help our blank scam. This has to be the stupidest place I've worked at, writes one Standard & Poor's executive. As you know, I had difficulties explaining how we got those numbers since there is no science behind it, confesses a high-ranking S&P analyst. If we're just going to make it up in order to rate deals, then quantitative analyses, are of precious little value, complains another senior S&P man. Let's hope we're all wealthy and retired by the time this house of cards falters, ruminates someone else. Doesn't that make you feel good? They already know it. They know they're going to ruin you and me. They know that this is going to blow up. They know that this is a house of cards. They know it's going to create damage. They knowingly said, oh, this is great, when it wasn't. This is false witness. One of the 7 deadly sins, by the way. Do not bear false witness. This is false witness against you and me. Now, can't we do a class action lawsuit about this somehow? Let's think about it. There's an elephant in the room that's now being exposed. Thank you, Matt. Hats off to you. Here's just a little aside. You can look at this. We are not number 1 richest middle class in the world. We're number 27. And so here's the little chart. This confirms how I feel. Confirm how you feel? So, well, let's see. Who's number 1? Australia. This is the median. Median. That means it's in the middle. Half are above and half are below. That's what a median stands for. It's not average. Don't confuse that. This is a median. It's a mathematical term. And so it means that where, if you took all the people, you know, if you had 100 things and it's 50, you know. And so the median, right in the middle, half above, half below, Australia is almost 200,000. We're down to 38.7. Half of the people in this country, their wealth is below 38 grand. In fact, that reminds me of that article I read or stat that I heard a while back, that I think over 50%, it could even be a higher percent of the people of the families, homes in this country do not have $2,000 in savings. They could not come up with that amount of money if they needed to. That's a really scary fact. That means basically this country's broke. The people in this country are basically poor. And that's when you have that massive, I mean, listen, here's another fact and then we'll move on. Kuwait median is higher than United States. Cyprus is higher. Besides Sweden, Germany, Taiwan, the United Arab Emirates, Spain, Qatar, Ireland, Netherlands, New Zealand, Finland, Norway. Okay, moving on. Damone, we remember who he is, right? CEO of JP Morgan Chase. He sees scary world as interest rates return to normal. And this is what Fed chairman is basically saying. We need to, return interest rates to normal. Now, I'm going to show you a couple of little clips here real quick. That when the interest rates return to normal, the expense of debt increases exponentially. So when debt increases exponentially, it's like an adjustable loan. Then let's say you have it at 2%, but then it increases to like 5%. And so your monthly payments go bam and knock you out. A lot of people are going to be knocked out by this. And this is one of the volatility they talk about. It's going to create harm specifically for people with adjustable debt, where interest rate adjusts. That's the scary part. So think through your life. What do you have? What's going to happen for you personally? And then look at the economy and try to see where the weaknesses and dangers are. That's what I'm trying to bring to you. Global markets will face increased volatility as central banks bring interest rates back to normal. Damone says, we should all hope for a normalization of interest rates. That's a good thing. Now, you have to understand what he is saying is we, the central banks, should all hope for normalization of interest rates because that means more money in their pocket and for him personally. And that's a good thing, regardless of the fact it's going to destroy the planet. It'll bring the house of cards down. This will bring the house of cards down. And as we go back to normal, it's going to be scary, kind of volatile. Just a warning. Now, here's an elephant in the room on the gold bullion run. We talked about that just a couple of days, I think, after there was an article about it. That was in April. Notice. This is July 17, 2012, almost 1 year ago. And this is the allocated gold scandal to shock the world. $5,000 gold prices. This is what's going to happen. And what basically this article says is they're already scamming us in the gold bullion world. They don't really have it. My gold trader source is adamant about the level of raids. In other words, they're already starting to make up fictitious statements about what bullion they've got. The bullion banks do not hold the physical gold. And they talked about this in July last year. Now they're saying there are incidents of illegal foreign currency swaps by the Fed to bail out Europe, MF Global scandal, the PFG fraud, JP Morgan's blown up swaps, accusations of fraud at New York Fed, post-Lehman crash. He starts to list all of these issues. And then he says, this is key, when the allocated gold scandal hits, the gold price will rise to multiples of the current price. It will break ranks from the paper clutches and phony price discovery methods, meaning they're setting the price of gold behind the scenes. The gold price will ease past the $5,000 per ounce mark and take silver on a great upward ride. Okay, I just checked this morning and the gold price is broke down below the $1,300 an ounce. It's at $12.91. And silver broke below 20. It's been hanging at 22-ish. Gold's been hanging at $12.89. Gold now almost another $100 down. Silver has dropped below 20. We can expect to see some more slides down. Now, interestingly enough, so he's predicting this gold bullion scandal is going to hit. And so here it is. This is April 22, 2013. This is the gold bullion bank default and the ensuing panic, and this is the only article I found about it. The silence is deafening. Fascinating, isn't it? So here, this is a whistleblower, talks about the gold bullion. I mean, it's really caused a panic among those people that use gold bullion banks, and that news has been completely squashed out of existence. And it's a huge elephant in the room. And in the meantime, gold prices are dropping. Fascinating. I think it's a symptom of behind-the-scenes manipulation. I believe we can use this to our advantage. I wanted to bring that out to you because as you start looking, when you look at articles, start paying attention to the dates. Last year, this year, they would think the natural logical conclusion is, oh my goodness, when this news really gets out and these big players can't get their bullion, they're just given an IOU or they're just paid off in fiat dollars like Federal Reserve notes or the yen. They're going to scream and holler. Oh sure, they're screaming and hollering, but there's no news about it. Fascinating. I wanted to have you hear just a clip at the beginning and a clip at the end. It's about an hour speech. You're welcome to listen to it. But I wanted to introduce you to Kyle Bass. Kyle Bass is the founder and principal of Heyman Capital Management. It's a Dallas-based hedge fund. This is the Wikipedia article about it. He became well known after successfully predicting and benefiting from the subprime mortgage crisis by purchasing credit default swaps on subprime securities issued by various investment banks. Fascinating. So he made a lot of money on the fraudulent foreclosure crisis, and the fact is how the notes defaulted, and he could sort of, set aside the ratings agency's lies and look at underlying dynamics and say, you know something? This doesn't pass the smell test. Okay, I'm going to play just a few short minutes. You got to listen to what he says. Okay? And this is at a conference. This was uploaded May 23rd, 2013.
When you think about total central bank assets back to '02 to today, and I'm just talking about the big ones, the BOJ, the ECB, the PBOC, it's a handful of years. And the way that I think about it, and this may be a non-scientific way to think about this, but the way that I tend to think about it is when you have a highly levered financial system going into the crisis as we did, and let's take the US for example. We had $1 trillion of equity in the US banking system. We had about $16 trillion of assets on balance sheet. Let's forget about the off balance sheet. And we hit a road bump or a wall or whatever you want to call it in the financial crisis. And we basically lost the trillion. And so throughout the crisis, we meaning the U.S., pumped in $882 billion of common and preferred equity into the banking system. We essentially recapitalized the whole banking system. So when I think about the monetary expansion of Fed balance sheets globally, central bank balance sheets globally, I think the first $5 trillion kind of replaced what was being lost on the equity side of the levered system, and the next $5 trillion is actually making its way into deposits, bank accounts, and expanding the monetary base. I know velocity is dropping like a rock, but the monetary base is growing. So again, I know we're probably tired of hearing the word unprecedented, but this is the modus operandi going forward, and I don't think it's going to change. We all know that all three of the big ones are unlimited, are basically printing with reckless abandon. This is something that I think is really important when you think about global growth and you think about global credit growth. Total credit market debt to GDP today globally is about 360%. We have expanded global credit market debt from 80 trillion to 200 trillion in 10 years. That's a CAGR of 11% a year, while we've had, let's talk about a couple of other things. Global population's grown at 1.2. Real GDP has grown at about 3.9. Global credit market debt's grown at 11, and central bank balance sheets are growing about 17. Right, this can't happen forever. Right, what we've seen is a massive credit-led boom, and now we're seeing the negative effects of such going forward.
Great. Ain't it exciting? I love the way he just basically talks in terms that you and I can grasp, we can understand, and this is based on a lot of fascinating analysis. And the fact is it can't continue. It can't. It's a mathematical impossibility. I've heard other people say that. And I believe that's right. He's telling us, and he ought to know, we need to pay attention. It is going to crash. The house of cards is going to come down. You got to hear this end, because here is where he's asked one last question. Hey, when's it going to happen? Inquiring minds want to know.
Last question. People call this the widowmaker. You've been in this trade, but not specifically how have you structured your trade. You've been in the trade for a couple of years now. And I know you've done well for your investors over the last couple of years. Past performance is not indicative of future results. We're on camera. What's surprised you? And has it been according to plan? Has this unfolded like you thought?
I mean, again, I said this morning, it'd be naive of me or anyone to say that they can predict a 70-year debt super cycle with any kind of accuracy or the end of such cycle. But when we put our first positions on was July of 2010. And we said at that moment in time, we think the stresses began to show in the next 3 years. It's not July 2013 and the stresses are showing. We're almost there, but the stresses began to show year-end last year. And now that we see these kind of investor qualitative beliefs starting to crack, that's why we say it'll probably be 18 months to 2 years. We could easily be wrong about that. We have to have an opinion. But the risk management is really important, because as you know, there have been people that have had dogmatic views on specific events, whether it's the European crisis or Japan or whatever, and they don't risk manage the portfolio very well, and they end up losing a lot of money. The way that this is structured in our portfolio is it's literally 100, 150 basis points a year, and we actually hope we're wrong, because we'll do fine in the rest of the book if we are wrong. But if we're right, it'll be difficult to outperform us if we're right in the manner in which we think it happens.
Sure. Everybody, let's give Kyle a hand. He'll be on our panel later today.
Did you catch that? The end of a 70-year debt cycle. Who can predict it? Who really knows? And they're trying to predict. They have to have an opinion. He's saying 18 months to 2 years. So let's stick a time in our brain. So 18 months is the end of 2014, approximately, and 2 years would be the middle of 2015. Just wanted to give that information to you. Do with it as you see fit. And then I have to give you this link, because they're saying a huge worldwide crash is coming. And one of the main, we've been talking about it, and one of the main issues about this article are all the links in it, so that you can read through the links, because, they've combined a lot of these topics and discuss these different issues from Obama or the Fed, warning signs, bond market crashes. So if you're interested in this on more of a personal basis or just informational basis, please review that. I'm not going to labor the point, but I did want to get the link into the comments for you. Now, here's another big elephant in the room, and that is Gestapo time. Uh-oh. This is going to feed right into the affidavits that we have as real tools. But what I want you to notice about this article, the key about this article, is the date. Remember I said, let's watch the dates on these articles. And Google is fabulous for that, because you can just type in something and then all all these articles will show up, and they'll span many, many years. So November 10, 2010, Human Resources Department at Bank of America was like the Gestapo. And so as you read down through it, they had, people following, shadowing, working closely with executives, spying on the executives and giving the feedback back to whoever hired them to make them do that. It was Ken Lewis at the time, and nobody liked it. The system is now changed. And so it's changed in 2013. It's run like a Gestapo. A big change. Sorry. Bank of America is too corrupt to fail. And this is their business model of fraud. It has been from the beginning. It will always be run like a Gestapo. Let's stop kidding ourselves. This is the point. And that's what I wanted to show you. This article doesn't even talk about the fact that it's always been run like this, and it's always been like that. And that should be pulled into the decisions. So you got to hear this, because we talked yesterday about the HUD. This is the National Mortgage Settlement Monitor overseeing, are the servicers following the rules? And of course they're not. We saw yesterday they're breaking all the rules, and they have all these fails. So what happens with a fail? Listen.
Getting a lot of calls on Secretary Donovan, and that was banks that were foreclosing on people while the borrowers were being considered for loan modification.
Those are the things that we really need to focus on. And here's the bottom line, Joe. Because of this settlement, we now have, for the first time ever, a transparent way that the public can see whether these banks are living up to their promise or not. The next step is they have to fix it. And if they don't fix it, and every 90 days, every 3 months, we're going to be measuring them. If they don't fix it by the next time we look at this, then we start imposing fines, $1 million or $5 million fines for every violation.
Wow.
And if they don't fix it at that point, we take them back into court.
So
and that's the important thing here, is we now have the tools to be able to get it. We haven't fixed it yet. We still got a ways to go, but we have the tools to do it.
Okay. Here he's talking about the tools. That was Sean Donovan, HUD secretary, and they, in the settlement, they had specific timelines. That's why the banks did blitzes. They're going, we can't, either we have to staff up, and it's going to cost us money, oh dear. So let's not staff up, and let's just say no. That's what they're doing. And they would blitz. They would reject anywhere from, 500 to 1,500 loan modification applications, even if these people were in their trial payment period and had made their payments. They would just say no. They just, and make up reasons and just eliminate them because they couldn't respond in the timeline fast enough. And they knew they'd be, a fail. So the issue is, when the government actually does start to put the pressure on for timelines, the banks will just cheat. And what's so annoying, there are a couple of things that are real annoying. Number one, they should have just fined them immediately. As soon as they find a fail, hit them. Why say, oh gee, you guys failed, so if you don't fix it, we're going to fine you? They failed. They already knew this. Come on. They're not babies. Treat them like professionals. Whack them. Whack them when they fail. And if you're going to bill them $5 million, then give it to the homeowner. Hello? Again, the government gets all the money, and the homeowner is going to get, what is $300 for having a house stolen from him, losing the down payments? Give me a break. So this is sort of a yes and no. They're talking about actually trying to get the banks to do something and maybe punishing them, sorta, except it's all monetary, it's all civil. There's nothing criminal about it. And I said, wait a minute. Okay, you've got tools. I've got an arsenal. We've got the arsenal. So let's review our arsenal. Here are the exhibits. These are the 7 affidavits of B of A employees in their loan mod department. And it's truly amazing how many they all say the same thing. They're all just completely admitting that often, if they were denied, they're admitting the same fraud and corruption. So here's an example. B of A would deny them the HAMP, but give them another loan mod that was much more expensive. HAMP loan mods are 2% fixed 30 years. Well, often there's a graduated increase after 2% for the first 3, 4, 5 years, whatever, and then 3% and 4%, and those kinds of schedules. I've seen them. People have emailed me their HAMP modification documents. And by the way, in every last one of them, they had to re-agree that MERS could be used to foreclose. So anyway, so here this person is saying they would delay the HAMP, they would deny it, then they would push an applicant, finally rejected, the bank would offer them an in-house alternative. Here's number 2. These documents were filed by different people all over the country in different departments and at different times. And so this is from Simone Gordon. And I think this is the one we've already looked at and talked about the people walking around with their earphones and plugging into the phone calls of the people answering the phone. Some of these have actually talked about the whole team was rated on how short they could make the phone calls, because you had to talk to the more people, the shorter, the better. And so they would often, the employees just would give up and say, I'm sorry, it's in review, even though it wasn't, because it was just easier to do that than to explain. It was much faster, and it would get the people off the phone. One is from a manager who said, this guy was employed Bank of America as a collector. My job consisted of speaking on the phone with homeowners who were calling regarding a loan mod, HAMP. My job could accurately be described as a loan level servicing rep. And so he talks about the things that happened and should have happened and didn't happen. Here's affidavit number 4, number 5, number 6, and number 7. And so you can read these. They're going to be linked on the comments. I'm going to have a page on my new website with all of these affidavits as permanent links so that they can be just emailed out. The links can be emailed out to the anyone that you want to have look at this information. This is powerful information, and I'm thinking we ought to be emailing this out to not only the media, but also our local representatives, Congress people, our DAs, our recorders. Excuse me. Let's at least help sway their view of homeowners, because they view homeowners as deadbeats. And the fact is, these homeowners are not deadbeats. And when this bank, this is B of A, pushed these people into foreclosure, you and I already know for absolute sure that they forged the documents to do it. And that is really the news. I wanted to show you, again, I've gotten more information about Lauren Stone. This happens to be from a link on the Homeowner for Justice website, where I've got I think 15 pages now. 2 of them are journal entries. So what you see here, this is what a journal entry looks like. And you'll see here that it says the Department of Motor Vehicles, that number for Lauren Stone. And then, of course, thank you, Jed, I've got Lauren Stone's signature on the certified copy of her Department of Motor Vehicles application. So this is what the signature looks like over here, and this is what the signature looks like on the journal entry. Fascinating. Fascinating. So let's look at what it looks like on this document. Well, there you go again. There's her document. There's a signature. This stuff can be used in court. These are powerful, powerful documents. These are felony crime documents. So what I did yesterday, because I'm continually trying to get some media attention about this, it's just like a slam door shut. Nobody wants to talk about this. And they're talking about, oh, they violated this, they violated that. The fact is, they've violated all the foreclosures. All the foreclosures of a securitized loan is illegal. And it actually dawned on me yesterday, a couple days ago, that the fact that they even have MERS is a red flag for fraud. And I would like to bring that to more of a complete explanation of why I say that. But in general, basically, when you actually start to think through what is the legal way to securitize these loans, there is no place or need for any organization like MERS. So the only reason that MERS was ever created was they wanted to circumvent the legal way that loans were put into securitization trusts. And they already knew how that worked, because securitization started, if you will, legally in the mid-90s. They'd already been doing some of these, take the notes, put them into the trust, securitize them, sell them out to the investors. Oh, how lucrative this is. And so, clever, dishonest people said, if we, these people don't even know what they're doing. And so we could actually double use the notes. We would point them to the security, but we could actually not really assign them, and so then we could do this and that. And they developed this fraudulent business model back in the 90s. And the opinion on MERS, by the way, was done by Covington and Burling in, I think it's 1999, that MERS would be legal. And we have, many, 13, 18 states, courts have actually said, yeah, the use of MERS is a legal way to, create assignments and transfer ownership, beneficial ownership. But they are only looking at, I swear, in those lawsuits and those rulings, it was only presented to the judges just this half window. It's like just looking out of one eye. And so that's all they see. And so when you see just half the picture, well, that looks legal. The trouble is, on this eye, it shows how MERS, if they had done the whole note assignment into the trust legally, there would be no way to even use MERS and no need for it. So that's the basis of my statement, and I'm gonna really write this up and pull in some proof and document, because the whole point of MERS was to commit fraud. That is the point, and we have to make that point well. And the better we make that point, the more we can sway opinion away from deadbeat homeowners. Give me a break. They cheated the borrowers, they cheated the insurance companies, they cheated the investors, they cheated the IRS. The whole thing about MERS, it's right in the heart of their fraud. And we need to make a real point about that. So these are weapons. This could be our weapons of mass destruction. We could destroy if we could purchase, if we could get someone to get a grip on this and do these criminal prosecutions with these documents against the people that forged them and put them in prison. This would bring down all the people involved. And you and I already know it's the mega banks and all the foreclosure mills, like Recon Trust, which is a wholly owned bank subsidiary of Bank of America. Now, there's a couple of other things that we can do. So I want to bring to your attention again some petitions that you can sign. These are very, very important aspects. This petition is out by Ron Paul. This is against the immigration legislation that's being proposed, because hidden in the inside of the however many pages it is, you know that they just want to literally stick the little seed of what they want to do in this massive amount. The needle in the haystack. How do we hide the needle? Make the haystack bigger. And so they're making these huge haystacks with these nasty needles in them. And one of these is a national ID card. We must rise up and fight against it. Sign the petition. Pass this on to your representatives. Tell them you do not want the national ID card in any way, shape, or form, no matter which legislation it might be stuck in. They can just stick these needles anywhere they want. And this is we got to get a grip on that too. Here is another petition to reclaim the Republic, restore our Constitution. This is against drones. Against drones. So please read it, sign it. I'm opposed to the unlimited use of drones in U.S. airspace, as they can be used to spy on citizens. I'm opposed to domestic surveillance, and especially anything authorized by the Patriot Act. I'm opposed to the indefinite detention of American citizens without trial. I'm opposed to the unlawful searches and seizures, groping, and virtual strip searches practiced daily by the TSA, and I'm joining the Campaign for Liberty. So I feel this is a very good petition. Please consider signing these, and I will set up a petition page so that all these petitions will be there, and we can just send a link to the whole page to family, friends, neighbors, and others, like on our Facebook, to get more and more support. Let's spread this kind of petition support, because it will get some attention, and that is not bad. Media attention is not bad. It's one of the things that we can do right now. And this, please, take heart. There are a lot of people that are awake. And the way you can see that is if you go to any one of these websites. I often pull in information from these websites. I look at them myself. Look at how many people are looking at the site. How many views? Okay, all those people are awake. Now, a lot of them, of course, are the same people, like me. I'm viewing a whole bunch of stuff. But the fact is, when you start having, thousands of views, millions of views, you know that it's not just all the same people. And that's possible. So this is an article that talks about what does it take to transform our nation. And they point out, number one, that it's always movements from the people that make anything happen anyway. So what we're doing is natural and normal and logical, and we just need to keep it up, and it will happen. And so they're talking about the numbers of people. It says currently people are building economic democracy. They're working on this. And this is a dual track, is exactly what we're focused. That's why I call it a great transition, because we're stopping the machine, but creating a new world. So what does that new world look like? We've got to stop, but we've got to build. And so this is we're doing exactly the right thing. So take heart. And people are building economic democracy. And it's really just a modest amount of activism in the streets on topics that have broad public support. So don't fret, don't feel down when your march, like I said to David Cobb when I was at the Public Banking Institute, and I was, I showed the little video when he was talking about the movement and the shift and the change. And I said, well, I think we only had 600 people in Santa Rosa show up for the March Against Monsanto. Actually, I think it was probably closer to 1,000. I don't know how to count people, but I mean that, they covered many blocks of several wide of people marching against Monsanto. And he corrected me and he said, are you kidding? When you have that many people in a relatively small community, we have less than 200,000 people in Santa Rosa, about 500,000 in Sonoma County total. So when you have this many people showing up, that's significant. That's a significant number. And of course, I noticed during the march that a lot of people were driving by honking the horn. Yes, yes, yes. And so when you march, the activists that are willing to get out on the street, if it's 1%, Occupy, they point out in here that Occupy started with 1/10 of 1%. And that was so scary to the powers that be that they started to infiltrate Occupy with these anarchists to get in trouble, to get arrested, to burn things and act like, lawbreakers, so that Occupy itself would get a bad name. And boy, I tell you, it's worked, because a lot of people don't even want to hear the word Occupy. Oh, bad word, bad word. They bought into the media. So this is why we're going to just, change the name. March Against Monsanto. Probably half those people were at Occupy, maybe most of them. But the point is, when you have people willing to go into the streets and you have broad public support, that's where you get change. So we're doing the right thing. We can take heart in that. And so in the fall of 2011, the Occupy movement may have had several 100,000 people actively involved. That represented only 0.1% of the population. But now if we can shift that, we are shifting that from just 0.1% to 1%. That's 10 times. What if we were able to get 10%? Somebody actually said to me, all it takes is 3%. You get 1 to 3% of the people in the of the population in the streets. 1% would be 3 million people. Okay, that's a significant number. That brings change, particularly when they're on topics that everybody's going, yeah, stop it. Stop surveilling us. Stop doing false flags. Those are issues that people can take a yes vote with. So we're on the right track. We're doing the right thing. Let's just keep doing it and keep pushing. And then I wanted to bring this to your attention, that, again, a crisis is an opportunity. And so the crisis is capitalism. It is completely going to blow up. It is truly capitalism without a cap. Capitalism needs a cap to work well, because without a cap, without regulation, without rules, if you let companies get too large, they get too wealthy, they partner with the banks who have free money, and so you've got two major things working against the people and the benefits for the people worldwide, and that is free money for some, debt for everybody else, and too big of these companies, multinational corporations. That is capitalism run amok. And so that's the crisis. It's going to blow up, but the opportunity is for the new system. And so I wanted to bring this article to the discussion, to the links, because this is the time to end the era of big finance, capitalism, and an economy based on the extraction of resources, including the people's labor. And this is not an ideological proposal, it's a practical one. The fact of the matter is, in some of this stuff I've read, the comment was made, and this is really true. It might have been in that whole hour that I listened to. The fact is, when the need for pumping more money into the system to keep it from collapsing is so large, there's not enough people left to buy it. So it's reached what's called the wall. When it's expanded to as much as it can possibly expand, they can issue more debt to be bought, but if nobody can buy it, the balloon collapses. And that's what we've done. The system we're in has hit the wall. And they're going to do everything they possibly can to keep it inflated, to keep it working, to paper over whatever is going on, to about the gold bullion run. Don't tell anybody, because they're going to try to keep the people from panicking. But once we panic, it's over. It's over. And so this is what they're talking about. We're in the midst, we're right in the middle of reshaping the world. And as a result, this is the time to make the new economy in a way that's redefining what is good, beautiful, fair, wholesome, and making sure our economic system allows us to live according to those beliefs. And what they talk about down here, I just wanted to read this one paragraph and then we gotta go. And don't forget Saturday, get out there, move the money. But if it's not capitalism, if it's not socialism has hit the wall, capitalism has hit the wall, money creation, fiat credit has hit the wall. And this is now planet-wide. This is not just one country, this is everywhere. And so we see examples throughout the country of the beginning of a transformation to a new democratic economy that is different from corporate capitalism and state socialism. In the end, it goes around, it's all the same thing. So in the new economy, wealth is shared more equitably. Workers own and manage the companies they work for. Wall Street finance is replaced by public banks, and an insurance-based sick care system is replaced by national public health, among many other changes. Control over the economy comes from the bottom, local level, rather than the top. It's exciting news. And the transition is not always easy. It's not painless. There's pain, but there's gain. No gain without the pain. Will be updates tomorrow, guys. So, you have an update, let me know. Signing off for now.
When I was a lass, I was proud of me class, like my father and mother before me.
They taught me to fight for my civil rights.
But it's always the same old story.
The rich reign supreme while the poor can but dream.
And the Labour or Liberal or Tory.
And I say, bugger the bankers and politicians. Bugger the bureaucrats too. Bugger the buggers who make up the rules. And if you're one of them, bugger you. And if you're one of them, bugger you.
The system is bent and the money's all spent.
We're badgered from every direction.
The workers get taxed while the wealthy relax. With nary a moment's reflection.
Where there's brass, there's muck.
And they don't give an arse, 'cause they're programmed against insurrection. And I say, bugger the bankers and politicians. Bugger the bureaucrats too. Bugger the buggers who make up the rules. And if you're one of them, bugger you. And if you're one of them, bugger you.
Now all you good people with passion to vent, don't give up the struggle for justice. But I've done my time on the protesters' line, and these days I show my dissent.
By loitering